Imagine, it's 400,000 years ago. You're making your way through the forest, looking for food. Suddenly you hear a rustle off in the bushes. A f***ing elephant appears out of nowhere. You're in Kent, southeast England. There shouldn't be a f***ing elephant in the bushes. Fast forward 400,000 years back to the present, and it's a little less like that. You're less likely to be stomped on by an elephant and more likely to be mauled by a badger or have a squirrel drop its nuts on your head. But 400,000 years ago, the picture was very different. And so I thought I'd start this little story with a little character known as the Swanscombe man. And this is where he died. You may have clicked on this video expecting to hear about elephants, and you will. But to get there, we're going to start in an old quarry a couple of miles up the road. Well, it's not quite a quarry anymore. Now it's actually quite a nice little park. But on the 29th of June 1935, this was a quarry. More specifically, it was Barnfield Pit. And Alvan T. Marston, a local dentist with an interest in the Palaeolithic, happened to be searching the quarried faces of that pit for flint tools. Now, he'd been digging for some time when all of a sudden he looked up, and 6 feet above the pit floor in one of the quarried faces, he saw something sticking out. On closer inspection, as a dentist, he recognized it as not just any piece of slurry, but as a human occipital bone. Or to put it more simply, for people like me, a bit of bone from the base of the skull round the back. Now, he did what you do in those situations. You mark the spot so you know where you found it, just in case you can find more around there. And then he took the piece of bone, left it with a local chemist for safekeeping, told no one to dig anywhere near it so he could keep looking. And then he spent the next 9 months looking for more. Now, obviously, you spend 9 months digging and not finding anything, you're probably going to get a little frustrated, especially when you consider that you found a piece of skull, but no official help is coming your way. So he persevered by himself, and on Sunday, the 15th of March 1936, he found a second piece of skull, the left parietal. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Any skull experts, you can correct me in the comments. And that was it. Marston didn't find any more pieces of skull until almost 20 years later, on Saturday the 30th of July 1955, a third piece of the same skull was found by John Weimer almost 80 feet away from the initial discoveries. And that's all that they found of this skull. I mean, it took a long time to find 3 fragments, and this skull had probably been sitting there for 400,000 years. What we're trying to find here is exactly where those skull fragments were found. Right, not sure I'm going to get much information out of this sign. It is a little faded. Annoyingly, looks like that was actually a map to the skull fragments. Not going to be much use here though. Here we go, 400,000 years ago, Britain's climate was much warmer and wetter. Hence, all the elephants and rhinos and lions hanging around. Well, there's plenty of information stones littered about. I just need to find the ones that show skull fragments. Okay, according to that rock, I am now entering a national nature reserve, so there might be some bone here. Annoyingly, I'm seeing multiple paths I could be taking. I'm just kind of blazing a path right through the middle and hoping that that's the way they've laid this out, even if I don't find anything. It's a lovely walk. Okay, I'm at a crossroads. There's a path up there, there's a path to the right, path to the left, there's a path over there. I'm gonna go left. I've spotted something. I came completely the wrong direction. Fortunately, it's not that far. There's a lesson in this. If in doubt, follow the path that actually looks like a proper path. Not the one that just goes off into the bushes. Here we go. First part of the skull. Also crazy to think that Where we're standing right now, where the first part of the skull was found, was a quarry. Not just was it incredibly different 400,000 years ago, but it was incredibly different 90, almost 100 years ago. Shows you how much the landscape can change in a very short span of time. According to this sign, stone and gravel taken from the quarry that used to be here was taken down to use in the construction of the Mulberry Harbourers used in World War II for the D-Day invasion. So the missing parts of the skull, obviously they only found 3 parts, might have ended up in Normandy. Okay, I can only assume it used to say something on here. Here's hoping this isn't where the second skull fragment's supposed to be. Well, you can definitely tell this place used to be a quarry now. It's getting a little hilly. Well, just come straight back to the main path. Alright. Let's go this way. Could have really used a map here. The skull eventually became known as the Swanscombe Man, Swanscombe being the town in which the quarry was based. But actually experts now think that it was probably the skull of a woman. Delicate muscle attachments suggesting that rather than it being a male, despite how thick the skull was. Now, the Swanscombe Man woman was ancient. In fact, so ancient that she was probably a distant ancestor of the Neanderthals, who came much later on. And how she died, we don't really know. It could have been any number of reasons, including trampled by an elephant. Well, I successfully found one fragment location. Kind of run out of time, and I could spend hours wandering around in the woods here, so one'll do. Fast forward 400,000 years, and let's head just up the road. In 2004, excavations were taking place around the new Ebbsfleet International Station and the new build housing estate that was going to be nearby. And during those excavations, archaeologists uncovered the remains of a straight-tusked elephant. We are about to reach our next destination, which is very exciting. This is where our straight-tusked elephant was discovered. It may look like a very straightforward, typical modern housing estate, but once again you have to picture 400,000 years ago, a lush, jungle-like environment full of exotic wildlife, not just some fairly normal-looking new build houses. Here we go. Ebbsfleet's earliest occupants. This is where they found our elephant. Britain, during the Palaeolithic era, was a land of dramatic change. Over hundreds of thousands of years, ice ages came and went, transforming the landscape, the flora and the fauna. And that Ebbsfleet elephant lived during the Hoxnean interglacial period, which, in between ice ages, was actually quite a warm period, between 425 and 375,000 years ago. And it wasn't just our elephant that was wandering around back then. Rhinoceroses, lions, red deer, and even macaque monkeys would have been prowling the same landscape as part of a rich and diverse ecosystem that was perfect for the wild and exotic animals you'd be surprised to see now, but was also perfect for their predators. What I didn't mention earlier about our straight-tusked elephant was what it was found with. Surrounding the elephant were the tools that were potentially used to hunt it and bring it down, and almost certainly were used to butcher it. And when we ask the question, who used these tools, we come back to our Swanscombe Man lady, or more specifically, Homo heidelbergensis, an ancient ancestor of modern humans today. And the green circle marks our Clactonian flint location, which is also our elephant location, right under the B259, which is what we're about to look at. The wonderful historical site of the B259. Up there with many of the UK's honoured and incredible historic sites. So I believe our elephant and the tools surrounding it was somewhere over there. Pretty much just around about now. But you can, if you really use your imagination, you can kind of picture what it might have looked like once. Yeah, I'm not going to kid you. It's kind of hard to imagine anything like what this place used to be. These early hominins, though smaller brained than us, still possess the skills and tools necessary for cooperative hunting. And there's a chance that the owner of our Swanscombe skull was part of the community that brought down this elephant, or at the very least was involved in hunting others. The discovery of the elephant and the skull nearby give us a rare and invaluable insight into deep human history. Professor Francis Wemburn Smith, who was the lead researcher on the site, highlighted its significance. It demonstrated that early humans were not only skilled hunters, but also had complex social behaviours that allowed them to cooperate and bring down such huge prey. What's also interesting is some experts believe that these early humans probably weren't speaking, but potentially communicated musically with hoots and cries. Now, even though you could look at something like this and think, what a travesty, there should have been a visitor centre and this place should have been preserved, and I have seen the argument from archaeologists that without huge construction like this new housing estate, there are so many finds that would go undiscovered or potentially get destroyed without even knowing they were there in the first place. Because for an archaeologist to get permission to build a huge trench just somewhere random like this, it just wouldn't happen. But with building already happening for different reasons, if they come across something, then they're far more likely to actually find these things. So a bit of yin and yang. Yeah, at least they've also made an effort to educate people on what used to be here underneath their lovely new houses. I suppose in one way it's kind of like, I don't know, you're reassuring to the people here. Like, this might seem like a brand new, perfectly spotless housing estate, but actually people have been living here for hundreds of thousands of years. And you know, maybe it's slightly better now, considering you're slightly less likely to be eaten by a lion. This fascinating discovery made in 2004, added to the finds from the quarry nearby, all add up to create this picture of a wild and incredibly different landscape 400,000 years ago. It's an incredible example of not just how much our world and surroundings can change, but of the fact that our ancient ancestors were living in that incredible, dangerous world. And not just existing, but communicating, hunting, cooperating, and thriving. And all this just begs the question, what are future humans going to think in 400,000 years' time from now when they're excavating and they find more elephants, lions, monkeys, rhinos underneath the remains of a roundabout and a modern housing estate? Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to like and subscribe and leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.